action.
You said that the U.S. cannot kill our way out of this war, that the U.S. needs to go after the root causes that lead these young men, mostly men, some women, to go and join ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab or these terrorist groups. Give us a little perspective of what you were talking about.
Well, absolutely, and I'm not the first person to say something like this. Military commanders that we've had throughout many years here fighting this war on terrorism have said the exact same thing, that in the short term, when there's a threat like ISIL, we will take direct military action against these terrorists. We have done that. We are doing that in Iraq and in Syria. But longer term, we have to look at how we combat the conditions that can lead people to turn to extremism. If you think about, if there's a radical jihadi on the internet who's putting out hateful videos, that's powerful and dangerous, right? But if there are 10,000 men in a country who are willing to blow themselves up because of what that person says on the internet, that's much more dangerous. So how do you get at those 10,000 people? How do you get them not to pick up the AK-47 and instead do something more productive and positive with their life? That's what we're trying to get at this summit, looking at the long-term problem, not just the short-term one.
So you suggested that maybe if you find these young men jobs, they might not become terrorists, right?
Well, I think that's a gross oversimplification. What we've talked about is there are things like good governance in countries where if there is not good governance, it can create a vacuum and a space for terrorist organizations to recruit and get people to their cause. We've seen that in Libya. That's the perfect example right now, where there's a lack of governance. You've had young men attracted to this terrorist cause. Where there aren't other opportunities, we've seen this, in a number of places around the Middle East and around the world. Unfortunately, people turn to terrorism sometimes. So how do you get at that root causes? That's really the bigger point of this week's summit.
But you know, of course, that some of the best-known terrorists out there came from wealth and privilege, with higher education, degrees, whether Mohammed Atta or bin Laden himself.
Absolutely. And look, countering violent extremism takes on a variety of different ways you can do that here. Part of it is military. Absolutely. We are taking direct action against ISIL in Iraq and in Syria. But look, if we look around the world and say longer term, we cannot kill every terrorist around the world, nor should we try. How do you get at the root causes of this? Look, it might be too nuanced an argument for some, like I've seen over the past 24 hours, some of the commentary out there, but it's really the smart way that Democrats, Republicans, military commanders, our partners in the Arab world think we need to combat.
So just to be precise, I want to give you a chance to respond to some of the critics who have been out there.
I'm happy
you said it's important to find these guys jobs so they don't become terrorists. Explain what you meant.
Where there are places around the world where there's a lack of governance, a lack of economic opportunity. President George W. Bush talked about poverty being one of the drivers that leads people to extremism. Where there are lacking in these kinds of opportunities, we need to talk about how to make that different, how to help our partners around the world give young men in that vulnerable age group a different path in life, show them that there's a different chance for them than joining a terrorist organization. Again, it's one part of it, Wolf, but this is a really comprehensive way of looking at how you combat extremism, and it's not one that fits into a soundbite sometimes, as I've seen over the last 24 hours, but it's a really important piece of this. And
the reason was 24 hours ago, you said the issue of jobs, find these guys jobs,
yes.
They might not become terrorism, so there's been some buzz out there, some criticism of you as a result. How are you dealing with it?
I don't read it.
Okay.
If I were ISIS, I wouldn't be afraid right now. I didn't figure there's no existential threat to these people. They can keep finding places where they can hold executions and putting the camera work together, getting their props ready, and killing people for show. And nothing we do right now seems to be directed at stopping this.
Well, I think there's a few stages here. Right now what we're doing is trying to take their leaders and their fighters off the battlefield in Iraq and in Syria. That's really where they've flourished.
Are we killing enough of them?
We're killing a lot of them, and we're going to keep killing more of them. So are the Egyptians, so are the Jordanians. They're in this fight with us. But we cannot win this war by killing them. We cannot kill our way out of this war. We need, in the longer term, medium and longer term, to go after the root causes that leads people to join these groups, whether it's lack of opportunity for jobs.
Well, we're not going to be able to stop that in our lifetime or 50 lifetimes. There's always going to be poor people. There's always going to be poor Muslims. And as long as there are poor Muslims, the trumpet's blowing. They'll join.
And I noticed you started your show today quoting Marie Harf, who used to work for me in the public affairs shop at CIA. And I think Marie would want to take a mulligan on how she said what she said 2 days ago. But I think the thought is this. Unless you change the conditions on the ground, you get to kill people forever. So in addition to applying military force here, Joe, we've got to work with our friends in the area to very boldly take on some of the issues that create phenomenon.
Marie, General Michael Hayden was our guest earlier this morning, and he said he expects you'd want a mulligan for those comments. What's your response? Because I'm not sure.
Well, you worked. General Hayden said you all worked together.
We did.
So, do you agree with your former boss or not? That's a tough question, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure I would take a mulligan on this one, but I think he went on to say something I would agree with, that, look, in the short term, and I said this on Hardball the other night, we are killing them, and we will continue killing ISIS terrorists that pose a threat to us. We're very good at that. I mean, General Hayden can speak to that better than anyone. But in the longer term, and this isn't specific to ISIL, military commanders, politicians of both parties, counterterrorism experts all agree that if you're going to prevent terrorist groups from spreading to other places and getting more recruits, you have to look at the root causes that can lead people to extremism. You have to do all of it. You have to take them on militarily, but you have to look at things like governance, like opportunity, so these groups aren't able to get more people to their cause. Absolutely.
Mike Barnicle.
All right. Among all of the stupid things that I think I have heard about radical Islam, the State Department jobs program has to be ranked the highest among them. I mean, because if that's their mentality, Colonel, then maybe we should give people free housing, terrorist housing, and maybe we should get them Ferraris and Obamacare. I've seen a lot of terrorists on TV that need dental work, maybe free dental care. Maybe that'll make them like us, because that seems to be the mindset. What's your reaction to that comment?
Well, let's really unpack what Marie Harf said. And Sean, Marie Harf is Exhibit A for the comprehensive failure of the U.S. educational system. That woman has a master's degree in international relations from the University of Virginia. Moms and dads, save your money. Now, what she was saying today about jobs, terrorists just need jobs, then we give them union cards and a path to citizenship. I mean, Osama bin Laden was wealthy. Major Hassan, the Fort Hood butcher, he had a job, as I recall. He's a major in the Army. Do you think the guy in Copenhagen this last weekend, when he pulled the trigger trying to kill a cartoonist and as many other Danes as he could, was he screaming jobs, jobs, jobs? No, he was screaming Allahu Akbar. I mean, this is sheer idiocy. But the other thing she said in the same interview was, we can't kill our way out of a war. Hey, Marie, war is about killing. You get out of wars by killing enough of the other guys so that they either quit or they're gone. They're dead. They're gone. They're finished. I mean, she heard somebody somewhere say we can't kill